Back when I was pastoring like a normal sort of a church, one of the roles I had to do was I used to take funerals, and often the person that I was had died, I probably didn't know, and I may know the family members a little bit. I don't know. Sometimes it was complete strangers that I was asked to come in and officiate at a funeral. So I'd meet with the family and the friends, and I'd really want to get to know what that person was like. I'd like to hear about their stories, some of the music that they liked. Um, Pictures of them were shown, and often I'd hear some humorous sort of stories that went on, holidays they did, jokes, favourite jokes. I'd hear mottos and quotes the person lived by, achievements and failings. And as I listened, I would take lots of notes, lots and lots of notes. And I would ask gently curious questions, just wanting to find out about them. What I was doing was I wanted to get a really good picture of who this person was like. And I wanted to, in a sense, create a tapestry of who they were. And I often think is that having someone like myself wanting to know your loved one who has just died really helps in the journey of grief and loss. It's kind of having someone just to share things with, just to unpack the loss and the journey. And this idea of tapestry is quite a fascinating one. Tapestries are very old, and some tapestries are large. Like I was doing research for this post, and there's one famous one in France which is nearly 70 meters, that's 230 feet long, and 57 meters tall. So it's quite narrow, but it's very long, and it tells the history of a battle. Most tapestries are a lot smaller, but they contain a story, and some of the older ones, they tell stories of kings and queens and battles and all sorts of things. Tapestries tell stories. The artist weaves the story with the threads that they use, and beauty and meaning are woven in and out. Different fibers are used. Sometimes it's wool, but even in my research, I found that gold and silver can be used in making a tapestry, and it's all there, and until it is revealed, and it's like, oh my goodness, look at this tapestry. The whole story is there, and you can look at it and you inspect it, and you stand back from it and you look at the vastness of it, and then you look in close for the little bits of the story. Well, I'd like you to imagine an enormous piece of tapestry. This tapestry is so large that it wraps the entire world like a gift wrapping sort of thing. But into that tapestry is woven every person's life. And if I look closely, I can see yours and I can also see mine. John Flavel wrote this: Providence is like a curious piece of arras. And when he says arras, that's spelled Arras. It's actually a region of France where tapestry was made. So modern interpretations of this passage is that we just put in tapestry. So I'll read it again. Providence is like a curious piece of tapestry made up of 1,000 shreds, which single we know not what to make of, but put together and stitched up orderly, they represent a beautiful history to the eye. I love that. Providence is like a curious piece of tapestry made up of 1,000 shreds, which single we know not what to make of, but put together and stitched up orderly, they represent a beautiful history to the eye. And I just thinking about this, and it's like, yeah, Providence has woven all these different things into our lives, and we can see the tapestry. And look, I see your section of this massive tapestry, thousands of shreds, the scraps and fragments of your life. And the times, like when you're in a storm, in the middle of that shred of evidence that, oh, there's a shred of evidence of you being human. You don't know what to make of it when you're in that storm. And storms can be incredibly lonely places of despair. And in that storm, we cry out, When will the storm cease? I'm so alone in the storm. Where are you, God? What's causing the storm? Can I be thrown overboard, Lord? I want to die. Remember Jonah, he was like that, eh? There's a larger story going on, a massive tapestry. And out of all this, there's a beautiful history presented to the eye. Exquisite beauty, incredible movement. Stories of how you have battled the storms of depression, anxiety, addiction, temptations, despair, loss. That's all woven into your story. Um, of course, and of course, the stories of failures. Okay, you've had your failings. Who hasn't? But somehow your little section of tapestry seems to fit perfectly with all the other stories that are going on. And the question is, how has Providence woven the tapestry of your life? And see, that's what I like about the Bible. In a kind of a sense, it's a piece of tapestry. It tells the story of people like us, people who had their failings, but with the help of God, we're able to find some hope and move a little closer to knowing God in all fullness. And I wonder which biblical character would be woven into the tapestry alongside my little section of the screen. Um, Probably quite a few. For a year, every day I read the story of Abraham going up the hill to um, sacrifice Isaac. I read that story every day, so I've got into my psyche. So that's in my tapestry. I have sat Sheba with Job, and if you know what Sheba is, just sitting quietly with someone in a lot of grief. I felt the bitterness of Naomi as she has lost her husband and her sons, left with nothing. Um, Thomas, still, his doubts, they still haunt me, haunt my movement forward. Do I have that faith to move forward? And when I'm talking to people in Soul Talker, I listen to the tapestry of their lives. Where's God in this? And what a glorious, I try to pull out where providence has worked in their life and is working in their life. You see, something really good is happening. I can't see it at the moment. I'm sort of so captured by the struggles of the day. But the pain and the suffering that we humans can inflict upon each other is just beyond belief. But when I see an act of generosity, a kindness expressed, that is when I see like a little providential woven into the fabric. A movement happens from one person to another person. Something of the nature of God comes, and then hope comes again. As I say, it's a curious piece of tapestry. Contained are events we would rather not put on display, but altogether they represent a beautiful history to the eye, a history of redemption. You see, we've all got mess, haven't we? Things we have done and things others have done to us. That we regrets, pain, struggles. There's shame, guilt, self-loathing. Well, they're kind of like event colours, aren't they, in the threads? Arrogant pride, self-righteous behaviours. Look at me demands. They style the weave. Can we live in the hope that this mess can be redeemed? Good can be made out of it. That the tapestry will somehow point to something good. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. No, we can't. We can't see the whole tapestry. We really can't. It'd be mind blowing to actually understand that. Well, no, we're to focus on our little curious pieces of tapestry. In Romans 8, Paul says this, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose for them. Something good, something gloriously good is happening. A tapestry has been woven, you're part of it, and it's going to be beautiful to the eye. I wrote this poem a few days. It's called A Curious Piece of Tapestry. Reveal your goodness. Show something of your eternal hand. Galaxies formed billions of years before. Chart a kinder hand. There's something big going on. A larger story unfolds. Mega tapestry. A shred is in your hand. You choose it from the pile, weave it in and out. Angels gasp in awe, the beauty coming out. Reveal to my heart today something of your story going on. Where you've taken my shred of struggle, Providence sings its song. I sit with Job, Jeremiah weeps in a well, Peter starts to sink, Naomi's bitter heart to tell. Take all the shreds, ripped up and rejected times, weave them into something beautiful, yours right alongside mine. Your heart sees every shred, every moment of ripped off cloth. Naked we need new clothes, look the garment that does unfold. A glory out of all those bits, discarded, shredded in disgust. Discards shredded in disgust. God takens the broken fibres all, weaves them into one. Reveal what you are up to, in your way and time. A curious piece of tapestry, gloriously divine. I hope you found this helpful. If you want to talk about it more, if you want to email me, that'd be great. Love to hear from you. It's barry@turningthepage.co.nz. There's all the links and everything to this post down in the show notes. And I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, please. It really encourages me to hear from people who are watching this on YouTube. Hey, until next time, I pray you may see that your tapestry and there's something really good being woven out of your life.